What people will do for a quick buck. Now, this video today is not going to focus on any specific Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever it might be. It's going to just talk about the status of people, their attitudes, what they'll do in an industry, nefarious things that people actually have done. As recently as a few weeks ago, it was discovered, as you can discover from the title here, that a man with the name of Robert Block, as early as 2013, was selling trimmed sports cards to Probstein and PWCC, or I should say co-signing it to Probstein and PWCC to be sold. And what's been going on here is that people in the sport card industry have been looking at these cards that were formerly 8.5, 7s, 8s, 9s, whatever it might be, and all of a sudden they're getting BGS 10s, black labels, PSA 10s, whatever you want to say about it. And so this guy was literally trimming these cards because, as you know, a lot of the corners on a lot of these cards come with whitening, and you see it with Pokemon specifically, a lot of whitening on the edges and corners. And so this man has made 7 figures plus doing this nefarious activity, okay? And we're in a state of the trading card industry and the collectible market where this kind of stuff just happens, and it's awful, and it's god-awful. I'm not going to say this is a rant video, but it's a video to show that in the collectible market that there's always something to look out for. Now, I'm going to spend lots of money on cardboard, and you're going to spend lots of money on cardboard, and the last thing that you want is to get a trimmed card. And let me just preface this by saying this is one amazing thing about Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering, all 3 trading card games. A great thing about them is that the corners of the cards are rounded. So what does that mean? Well, if someone's trimming a card like this, okay, someone's trimming this, they'll trim right down the sides or right across the top. Basically a cut, because there might be whitening on the back corner here for whatever reason. It came out of the pack like that. And we see it with these non-sport cards and trading cards, and that's one major advantage that trading cards and non-sport cards have compared to sport cards. Because if you notice, all the flagship sports cards are rectangular. They're not rounded on the edges. They have sharp corners. And so with Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon Magic the Gathering, someone cannot literally shave a corner or shave an edge off a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. It's impossible. Because if you do that, all of a sudden the edges are now sharp, square, perpendicular, whatever you want to call it. And so we have to be grateful here in the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, Pokemon cards, Magic cards will never face this issue. And you know what's scarier about this is that these grading companies are grading these cards, but a lot of people have been sending backlash to Beckett and PSA, BGS and PSA, and saying, well, how dare they? They should have better quality control and make sure that the card isn't trimmed. It sounds great on paper, right? But the matter of the fact is, these companies getting in thousands upon thousands of cards, either they have to hire so many more people, or they have to take longer. So, one of the big complaints with PSA and BGS is, especially with the non-guaranteed time with Beckett, is that they take too long with these cards. But people have to realize that it is very difficult for someone to trim this literally the size, it's so thin that I can't even put it on video. It's very difficult, to actually measure out every individual card that comes in. And again, this is a video just to show, and I'm going to link the discussion down below, or the tweet, or whatever it is. It is going viral. I mean, we're seeing cards like of the greatest legends, Tom Brady's, LeBron James, Wayne Gretzky's, even the current modern cards getting trimmed And when you're talking about a card that goes for 5,000 as a PSA 9, it goes for 25,000 as a PSA 10. This guy could literally buy a card, trim it, and make $20,000 off one transaction. And this is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. Now, I don't know the legality of this, actually. I don't know if this guy, because he's been caught, is going to face some sort of legal action as if selling, not counterfeit goods, but I don't know, revised, false advertisements. I don't know how he can get prosecuted. If there's anyone that's in the comments section below that can actually give me the legality of this, that would be great. But I don't know if technically, by the law, he could get in trouble for it. And what's another bad thing about this, and we kind of relate this back to non-sport cards, and, you know, my first point was to say, basically, we got to be grateful that this can't happen. Because knowing the communities, there's always going to be good and bad people in the community, nefarious actions going on, and it's good. It's so good that because these cards have the rounded corners that this can't happen. And secondly, you know, it's just disgusting. You know, this is kind of like a rant video, but it's something to just keep an eye out for, is that people will do whatever extremes they can to make an extra buck. And look, let's be honest, people might say, well, great, you know, taking out a card from a case, encapsulated and cracking it open, then that's you know, not moral. It's a tough one to say because, in my opinion, if a card should get a 10, and there's nothing wrong with the card, and for whatever reason it got misgraded as a 9, yeah, you could send it for review, but the odds of a review coming back at 10, very, very low. Very low. So a lot of people do suggest the whole cracking method open. And by cracking a case, you're taking the risk that, A, you're going to damage the card by cracking it, or it's going to get scratched, or B, resending it to PSA or Beckett, you have another risk of Beckett or PSA damaging the card themselves. So you're actually taking on another risk. And this is something for another video in terms of the whole cracking, and because obviously PSA and Beckett, they don't want that, and I don't want that. If a card, however, is absolutely immaculate, and it gets an 8 or a 7 or whatever happens there, then maybe there should be a reason for that. But for the people looking to just crack cards all the time, that I feel like is a little excessive. But they're taking a risk by doing so. This guy is literally just trimming cards and making so much money. And it's funny. A lot of people in the community, in the sport card community, actually found his address and everything like that. And he's got like a Mustang in his driveway. He's living in Florida. He's living the good life, right? I mean, he made over $1 million in 4 years, 5 years doing this stuff. And it's just disgusting. So we as a community, we need to make sure that it doesn't get as toxic as that. I mean, luckily, it can't. In terms of trimming, it cannot, which is phenomenal. There's nobody that can trim a Yu-Gi-Oh card with rounded edges. At this point, there's no way to do so. And I feel like if someone were to do so, it would be fairly obvious. So this was more of just a PSA video, no pun intended, PSA, public service announcement video, that there are a lot of bad people out there, and they kind of ruin the whole hobby for everybody. And again, check it out down below. You'll see football, baseball, basketball, hockey, all cards this guy was trimming and making a whole lot of money. A lot of money. And as a grading company, what can be done about this? What can be done? I mean, I guess the only option is to literally measure each individual card and say, okay, it's this by this, the width, and this by this, the height. But when it's so razor sharp, and it's so thin, that to the point of where it got cut was so thin, it's really, really time consuming, and it's really, really difficult. And it's a sad state in the industry, because what person would want to spend $20,000 to $30,000 on a piece of cardboard to find out that PSA 10 or Beckett 10 or Beckett 9.5 even was trimmed? Imagine that. Imagine you spend on a Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's like buying a fake Blue Eyes. It's like it's buying a fake Blue Eyes or buying a fake Charizard or a fake Lotus. And there's a lot of those out there. You know, and I think from in the future, I think the main concern of non-sports will be fakes and technology. And I think that's the one major concern, is that technology might get so good one day that it can replicate a card exactly what it looks like in reality. And that's scary. And that's my only one concern. I don't think that it will happen for a long time. I think the originals have such finite detail that it's almost impossible to do such a thing, but technology moves so fast. But either way, we're getting into a whole lot of different directions. I just wanted to share this story. I mean, some guy in Florida making over $1 million trimming sports cards, selling them graded, regrading them. It's an absolute disaster and an absolute monstrosity and an absolute shame to the community, to the sports card community, to the collectible community, to the trading card community, and it's just disgusting. And it should not be happening, but it is, because you have these kind of people and this stuff. So as a community as a whole, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, we are lucky that this cannot be done in our cards, because I feel like a lot of people would try to do such a thing, because, let's be honest, no matter what industry or market you're in, there's always going to be people looking to make that quick dollar and not, looking to enjoy the hobby. I like to enjoy the hobby and buy and sell at the same time. But apparently, and we know this, that people will just do whatever it takes to get a step ahead. And honestly, again, I don't know if legally he can be prosecuted, but until next time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Tube, what do you think? I mean, just take a look. Go to the description. I mean, it's a very interesting story. People took legitimate photos of the before and after of these cards, which is insane. And what does it mean for grading companies? I mean, what does it do to the credibility of these grading companies? Tough call. Till next time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Tube, signing out.